A Texas task force begins the search for solutions after the shooting in El Paso.
We plowed a lot of ground, and we got off to what we consider to be a good start.
Texas lawmakers are shaping the debate.
This is happening on our watch, and this is our opportunity to make things right.
How the work from these meetings could shape new laws in Texas. The tragedy in El Paso has some people looking to Washington.
I do think that the American people want Congress to act. They want us to do something more.
One Texas congressman says he has a plan. Here his idea is to pump up background checks and to predict dangerous behavior. Hello, and thank you for joining us for State of Texas. I'm Josh Hinkle. Governor Abbott says closing gaps in background checks should be one part of how the state addresses gun violence. That's one idea that came out of the first meeting of the Texas Safety Commission, which the governor formed after the shooting in El Paso. Steffi Lee shows us other solutions they're targeting.
I think people need to see, and lawmakers need to see, the human tragedy. My student was not a Republican or a Democrat.
Dr. Juan Martinez's student was Javier Rodriguez. The 15-year-old was one of the 22 killed in the deadly attack in El Paso.
He can no longer run. He can no longer go play soccer. He can no longer graduate. His life is over. 15 years old. And that is beyond politics.
There are unique issues about what happened in El Paso that need to be addressed in addition to the type of violence that we saw in the aftermath of Santa Fe.
The Texas Safety Commission Thursday spent more than 2 hours in this room, drilling down on how to prevent gun violence.
There is sometimes a lag of the time period from when the person is convicted of a crime to when that information is reported to the time that it would get to whoever would be in charge of the background check.
They'll study the roots and growth of domestic terrorism and hate speech.
Free speech means there was some hateful, some disturbing things that are said over the internet. And unless it's a crime, we can't monitor it. And so that's why it's important that these companies have worked with us so they can identify things that really are precursors to violence.
And El Paso area lawmakers believe they can make a difference.
We've seen during parts of our state history and our country's history that we have tackled issues of racism or sexism through policy, and we institutionalize change, and so I am not giving up.
The Texas Safety Commission will hold its second meeting in El Paso on Thursday. The newly formed Domestic Terrorism Task Force will meet in Austin on Friday. At the Capitol, Steffi Lee. Josh, back to you.
Members of the legislature from El Paso will play a key role in the work of the Safety Commission. Joining us now is State Representative Cesar Blanco, a Democrat from El Paso. Welcome.
Thank you. It's great to be with you.
What are your takeaways, Representative? What do you hope comes out of these meetings?
Well, number one, I think we need to make sure that our community has the ability to heal from this tragic event that occurred in our community in El Paso. But I think, importantly, I think there's a discussion about how we're going to move forward in addressing hate crimes in our state, what the mediums are where a lot of these white supremacy groups and hate groups are operating. A lot of them are on the internet. And then, of course, taking a look at what we can do to making sure that we're implementing gun safety proposals so these type of tragedies don't continue to occur in mass.
Yeah, you've talked about the need for everyone to be mindful of the language they use moving forward. Why is that so important?
I think it's important about how we talk about immigrants, about how leaders of our country and our state talk about individuals that are in our communities. So I think it's important that we're careful, that there's sensitivity, especially in the aftermath of this horrible tragedy that was caused by a white supremacist who killed 22 people in our community. I think we need to begin to heal, not only in the state of Texas, but in our country.
You're talking about the rising threat of white nationalism. How can the commission and how can lawmakers respond to that threat specifically? What do you see as ideas?
Well, a couple of things that came to light as we worked with Twitter, Facebook, Google, and others is that there's definitely a need for content review, making sure that social media, once they identify hateful rhetoric, hateful sites, hateful platforms, making sure that they're shut down. Obviously, we want to make sure that the First Amendment is protected. However, when people are becoming radicalized in these sites, we want to make sure that there's mechanisms in place to making sure that they're shut down quickly so they don't continue to be radicalized and start mass shootings like they did in El Paso. So when we come back next week in El Paso for the second roundtable, I hope we get to talk more about the next steps ahead.
Yeah, how do you expect that one is going to be different from this one?
Well, the governor lined out exactly what I think our approach should be in El Paso, and I agree with him that it's about community healing and making sure that El Paso has all the state resources available to heal. That's from everything from mental health, from security, from bringing people together. And we're going to focus a lot about that. We're going to hear from experts in mental health. We're going to hear from faith leaders and a variety of folks. Our delegation is going to provide and has provided the governor with a list of individuals that we think would be suitable for this event. But more importantly, we need to hear from the victims and the families. We want to make sure that we're also hearing their stories, their concerns, their feelings about how we move forward from this tragedy. We also want to hear input from our first responders, whether they're law enforcement or healthcare first responders, what the best practices are, what they learned from this situation, and what steps we need to take forward as a state.
You released a statement shortly before the hearing saying that you feel like you owe it to the victims to make sure bold actions come from these committees. Talk to us about why this resonates so much with you personally.
It's personal because 22 people died. It's personal because it happened in our community. It's personal because I serve in the legislature with colleagues who have experienced mass shootings as we did here in El Paso. And it's important and relevant because we as elected officials have the opportunity to make something happen, to do something, to create change so that we're keeping our community safe. This is happening on our watch, and this is our opportunity to make things right.
Representative Blanco, thank you for joining us, and thank you for the work you're doing.
You bet. Thank you.